You've probably heard that AI can read, right? But what if I told you it's been doing it, well, kind of wrong? Today, we're going to dig into a huge shift in how AI thinks, moving from just processing words one by one to actually learning abstract concepts, a lot more like we do.
So let's ask that question. How does an AI really read? When you look at this sentence, your brain doesn't just see a list of words. It instantly groups them into ideas. But for most AIs, it's just a sequence of individual pieces. How, then does, then and, AI, and each one gets the exact same amount of attention. It's just incredibly inefficient.
And this slide really nails the difference. Over on the left, that's the standard AI way of doing things. Every single word, even tiny fillers like and the, demands the same expensive computation. But on the right, that's how we do it. We think in these meaningful chunks. This right here is the efficiency gap that AI really needs to close. The researchers who wrote this paper put it perfectly. They said LLMs apply uniform computation to language that has non-uniform information density. Okay, so let's translate that from science speak. It basically means language is lumpy. Some words are packed with meaning, while others are just connectors. Treating them all as equals is a massive waste of energy. So what's the fix? Well, researchers have come up with a totally new architecture to teach AI a more human way of thinking, and it's called a Dynamic Large Concept Model, or DLCM for short. This amazing work is a team-up between researchers at ByteDance and the University of Manchester. And they're not just tweaking the old models, they're fundamentally rethinking how these things process information from the ground up. The big idea is actually pretty simple, but it's a total game changer. Instead of that word-by-word grind, the model learns to group words into these meaningful concepts. So it figures out that a phrase like the future of artificial intelligence isn't 5 separate things to think about, but one core idea. Now here's what's so important to get. A concept isn't some pre-programmed rule. It's a chunk of text that can be any length, maybe 2 words, maybe 10, that the model itself learns to treat as one single coherent thought. All right, so how does it actually pull this off? The whole thing is broken down into this really clever 4-step process that, and this is key, separates the reading from the actual reasoning. So first, a lightweight encoder just reads the raw words. Then the segmentation step, and this is the magic part, figures out where one idea ends and the next one begins. The crucial 3rd step is where a really powerful reasoning module thinks only about that short, compressed list of concepts. And finally, a decoder translates those high-level concepts back into a normal sentence. And this is the big payoff. By doing all the deep, heavy-duty thinking on that short list of concepts, the model saves a ridiculous amount of computation. It's focusing its power where it actually matters, on the relationships between the ideas, not the individual words. Okay, that all sounds great on paper, but does it actually perform any better? Let's get to the numbers. The results really show that thinking smarter, not just harder, pays off in a big way. So when they tested it across a dozen different benchmarks, these are tasks the AI has never seen before. The results were super clear. A baseline model, the one that processes every single word, scored around 41%. But the new DLCM model, the one thinking in concepts, it consistently scored higher at almost 44%. Now, that might not sound like a crazy leap, but in the world of large language models, an average improvement of over 2.5% is a really significant step forward, especially when you see how it gets there. Because here is the absolute kicker. It gets those better results while doing less work. By switching its focus to concepts, the model cuts down the computation it needs by a whopping 34%. It's more accurate and more efficient. So that begs a really interesting question. If it's saving all this energy, where is it strategically choosing to spend its effort? The answer is in this fascinating pattern that basically reveals how it's thinking. Take a look at this U-shaped curve. It's awesome. It shows the model's error rate, which is basically how hard it has to think at different points inside a concept. And notice the peaks. It focuses its effort at the very beginning and the very end of an idea, which is exactly where the most important information usually is. This pattern is just a clear sign of smart resource allocation. The model has learned all on its own to go easy on the predictable words in the middle of a thought and to really concentrate its power on the transitions between ideas. It's not just working harder, it's working smarter. So let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture. This isn't just about making models a little faster or a little more accurate. This is about fundamentally changing the way they reason. This quote from the paper just nails it. We humans don't think word by word. We think in ideas, in big, abstract concepts, and then we figure out the exact words to say. This research is trying to give AI that same kind of top-down ability.
At the end of the day, this is a major step up. It's a move away from brute force prediction and towards a more elegant, more abstract form of intelligence. This is a foundational shift towards machines that don't just process our language, but actually start to comprehend it.
Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If an AI can teach itself to bundle words into concepts, what's the next level of abstraction? Can it learn to group concepts into arguments? Or maybe arguments into entire narratives? This really feels like it's just the beginning.